when you get given that feedback, often it's just a moment to say, just slow down and think about it. If you got everyone to put on a scrap of paper why you'd lost that pitch on the pitch team, I'm pretty confident you'd get a lot of different answers. We should provide a safety net, but not a harness. The inner voice, if you like, of, the creative wasn't good enough, the costs were too high. The client will tell you a lot of the time.
Very, very warm welcome to my podcast, brought to you by Michael Glanville Executive Coaching. And I have got the absolute privilege of being here with Simon Cox. Welcome, Simon, to the show.
Hi, Michael.
Simon is an MD at the best digital product development firms based in America. So it's going to be brilliant to talk to Simon about his journey. So Simon, tell us a little bit about Huge. Tell us a little bit about the business.
Yeah, I will do, yeah. So I'll start actually with the origin because you get the name. So a couple of guys in 1999 in Brooklyn, technologist, designer, in a room, started an agency, as we call it. One design, one technology, and fuse that together. Tiny, how do we punch above our weight? We'll call ourselves Huge. Da-da.
I love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, that's where the origin of it is. And then as a business, we've been really fortunate to really ride the waves of, I guess, kind of tech disruption over the last 25 years. So web around the year kind of 2000, then into mobile, social, and now we're obviously in the AI world. And and looking at how we start to ride that next wave of disruption and opportunity that comes with it. There's 1,000 of us. 85-90% of our business is US based. And then we've got hubs in US, Colombia, Vietnam, India, UK, obviously. International business.
Amazing. And so being based in the US and obviously living in the UK, that's got to have some interesting challenges. Yep. But you spend quite a lot of time in New York, don't you?
Yeah, I'm fortunate. I'm over there probably every kind of 7 or 8 weeks.
Okay.
I've got some clients that are US based. A lot of our clients are obviously global now. So some of our EMEA clients will often be in the US and will be traveling. And then obviously our exec team and our leadership are in the US as well.
Yeah, amazing. And so have you got a team that you're managing over there as well? Presumably you have.
I did, less now actually, now that I've got more of an EMEA focus. But yeah, previously I had pretty much all of my team was US based at one point, which was good opportunities and challenges that go with that. We're a fully remote business, so we have offices, but the majority of our team are out of office and remote, which brings challenges, obviously, but also brings the opportunity of being a global and connected business.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and you mentioned to me that you've just been joined by a new chief executive.
Yep.
What's his background? His or her background?
Yeah, Josh Campo. So he has come out of a similar business to ours, a business called Razorfish, and did an amazing job of growing them up to a kind of 400 million turnover business. He was in the Publicis Group, which is world's biggest marketing services group, French-owned. And I think what's going to be great with Josh is he brings together, well, I talked about kind of, we have an origin in technology. That was his start in technology. He then went and ran big business, big accounts, Samsung globally, and then went into actually running Razorfish, a big portfolio. So he brings a ton of experience, ton of energy. He's done it before, and yeah, we're excited to have him on board.
Yeah, and you sound quite passionate about him joining and the impact that's going to have.
Yeah.
When a new senior leader joins a business, inevitably the team have got to get used to kind of working with that person and understanding their decision-making process and how they kind of articulate themselves with the team. What would you say was your kind of approach to that? How have you kind of worked with him to kind of get to know him?
Do you know what? It's a funny one because we've had quite a few CEOs in the last few years. It's been a period of our industry has been a little bit disrupted, and so it's not a new thing to get a new CEO come on board. Obviously, there's a period of adjustment. You're trying to understand, what is it that person, what is the plan, what is the direction, often you have to feel for new CEOs because the business wants answers quickly, and as a new CEO, you're going in and actually he's done a really, something I think has been very effective. He's very much been on a, let me listen, let me learn. And of course, he's got a plan. That's obvious, but he wants to make sure that is informed by what's happening on the ground, what people are saying. But I think that the main thing is just to be honest, to be open. There's no point in kind of trying to sugarcoat. Experienced people can see through that pretty quickly. So honesty, good communication. Just be a good human being, basically.
Brilliant. You heard it here first. If you're a new CEO, just be a good human being and all will be well. No. There's some great insights there. Thank you very much. So, Huge have got some brilliant clients. I mean, you were talking to me earlier about McDonald's and the digital work that you've done for them. What would you say was certainly the best, the most interesting project that you've worked on in your time?
Yeah. So, I mean, as a business, actually, it's one of the things that we're super fortunate. We've always worked with what we kind of call ambitious global brands. McDonald's is a great example. McDonald's, we do app, web, previously Nike sneakers app, Shark Ninja, kind of biggest kind of consumer electronics group growing. Google is a massive piece of our business. And actually, I mean, it's a bit of a passion project, actually. We've just relaunched a big new sports platform for the Ring Boxing magazine.
Okay.
Super great client. And again, we were talking about the global nature of that work has spanned across kind of US, Europe, into the Middle East. And it's, just what I love is seeing progressive work out in the real world, and that's a great example. Often the world that we live in, it's an ideas business at the end of the day, and lots of ideas never get off the cutting room floor. So to see your ideas and see the team's ideas and the team's work out in the open is amazing.
Yeah, and do you feel like that's what you get energy from? Sort of seeing that product development and bringing it to life in that sense.
Massively, yeah. It's interesting because a lot of people at Huge come from similar backgrounds. There's maybe a dozen people at Huge who I've worked with, who we've either been in previous companies, either together or we've been in those previous companies. And Huge is a business that you don't fall into a business like Huge. You kind of seek it and you want to be part of it. And the reason for that is it's always had a reputation for doing amazing work and getting amazing work into the outside world. So that tends to be what motivates and unifies us. We're all very proud of the work that we do.
Yeah, no, I can tell. And in the way that you're articulating yourself and how you kind of develop those products and those relationships. So finding new, very significant clients, big brands, that's got to be quite hard work. Business development in your business is a tough gig. Yeah. How do you go about that? I mean, you can't just knock on the door of Google, can you? Maybe you can.
Do you know what? I mean, there's a few answers to that, and it's changed significantly in the last 2 or 3 years. The world it's a tough environment, no doubt about it. We are, as an industry, are being kind of disrupted, and clients are trying to understand what is the balance of being able to use partners versus building their own capability. Mm-hmm. What is AI going to do in terms of the ability to kind of do more with less? So it is a challenging world. We're very fortunate that we have a great brand, a great reputation. We often will get clients who, we get a lot of inbound, which we're very fortunate for. We do get a lot of clients who, most months I'll speak to someone who will say, we've always wanted to work at Huge, which is, I don't ever underestimate
the power of that. That's really smart.
But actually, as well, we have to be very pipeline focused, and I think that's probably the one message I've understood. Kind of trying to be involved in running businesses is pipeline is everything. Without pipeline, you're a vanity business.
Absolutely. You touched on AI there, and obviously AI is impacting businesses in both the UK and around the world, really. What would you say was the sort of single I suppose, fundamental shift in what you do that is notionally AI powered or AI driven?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think there is if you break down, I'm going to call it kind of the value chain, if you like, of what we do, and everything from, as we just talked about, prospecting, starting to build relationships with clients, starting to advise them. That's why clients come to us. They want us to advise on what is the next big move that they should be making, through then into developing concepts, getting concepts then into production, whether that's kind of technology based and engineering production or more design based production, through into then how we support our clients. Literally every part of that step, AI is starting to disrupt.
Wow.
So, tangible examples of, from a concepting perspective, that you would, what we call wireframes, so you would start to almost like an architectural diagram of what the experience, say a web experience, an app experience, is going to look like. You design concepts in things like Figma and start to build those concepts out, and you build design libraries, and more that is now becoming automated through AI. So the speed, the volume is way higher than it's ever been, and it's a big learning curve for people. It's a really big learning curve.
How is it, if at all, changing job roles or job scopes or numbers of people? I mean, is it impacting huge in that sense, or you're not quite there yet? Or?
No, we are there now. Yeah. Because I think there is. I mean, it's twofold. One is that clients are very. They want to be adopting this technology, but they need to do it in a very thoughtful way. And there's obviously on the client side a big change management piece, because we're always reminding our teams that empathy for clients is really important. That we talk about being disrupted, and you have to appreciate that clients are also being disrupted. They're fearful of what this means for kind of long-term, mid-term, short-term kind of job security. So yeah, we have to be really thoughtful in how we go about it. But it does have an impact. It has an impact then in terms of, the efficiencies. And of course, let's be honest about it. We as an industry have been saying for the last 2 years that this is the quickest path to reducing cost, greater efficiency, etc. And clients are saying, yeah, well, we'd like some of that then, please.
Okay. So you're getting, that's interesting. When I was at an event yesterday where somebody said that they had, it was a legal firm that had been approached by a client to say, well, surely with all this AI going around, then my fees must be falling. I mean, you're getting those kind of bits of feedback from clients.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. Clients are, are savvy. They're not stupid.
Yeah.
As I say, the world has been messaging that. Now, we 100% have clients that don't do that. They respect that they're going through change. They can see us going through change, and we have an amazing partnership. But equally, if I was to, look at the numbers and say, have we got parts of our offering that have become more commoditized, that like the ability to charge premium for it has reduced? 100%, yeah, of course. But then that's always been our world. There is nobody who has been in this world for 20 years has not seen this type of challenge before. Our job is always to be kind of, or at least, humbly, to try and be ahead of our clients, so that we know what is next, and we can advise and lead them into that. That's always been our world.
So being kind of agile in the conversations you're having, and being able to react to market changes and AI shifts. And
100%. If you can't do that, and of course the complexity has got more and more, and just the range of tooling is crazy. I was with a head of AI and innovation in one of the US's biggest insurance businesses a couple of weeks ago. And she was just talking about, literally every day, more tooling. Wow. So there is a little bit of a, everyone is just trying to understand what are the new processes, what is the new toolkit. But yeah, change is the constant. You either thrive in it or you struggle in it.
And you've got to be able to adapt.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about your journey. So obviously you haven't been the MD at Huge for ever.
Yeah.
So what's brought you to where you are today? What's your journey been like?
Yeah, so I mean, I fell into this world in a way that serendipity. I did an arts degree, classic. Came out of university not really knowing what you do with an arts degree. Didn't want to be a teacher, and then I originally started working in telco, and actually a couple of years there, formative years, were great because you realised what it was like to be on the client side. I didn't even know, the notion of being client side or non-client. I mean, that wasn't the vernacular. But when I look back, it certainly taught you a lot. That you grow up thinking all businesses are highly organized, everything is done deliberately, everything is, and then you get into them and you realize that no, they're quite chaotic, they're quite messy. What matters, what doesn't matter. And then I left there to go traveling. And when I came back, I was looking. I mean, these were the days. I'm old. These were the days where you replied where you replied to ads in papers.
Yeah.
And there was an ad saying, "Come and have fun in a barn." And I thought, okay, it's interesting. I'd been writing application letters that typically didn't want to do them. And actually, I wrote a letter, and I was writing standard letters. I would really like to come and work for you because of X, Y, and Z. And I wrote an authentic letter and said to them, like, I am literally applying for jobs I don't want to do, and this is the first thing that I've seen that is interesting, and I'd love to just come and chat to you. And it just happened that Suzanne, the owner of that business, like that was her love language. Somebody being authentic, maybe a little bit vulnerable. And look, that was a kind of 5 or 6 years at the time where this whole industry was starting. Digital, we called it new media at the time, websites, and you were literally, I mean, it was like the start of a cottage industry. There was no standards, there was no frameworks and disciplines. You were making it up as you were going along. And honestly, there's no better.
Or shaping the future.
Yeah, but there's just no better, you learn through making mistakes. We all know that, but you don't want to admit it. But that's how you do it. And we made a ton of mistakes, but we did some good stuff, really good stuff as well. I came out of that business. I helped a couple of smaller businesses who had a more traditional offering to bring that more digital product offering. I ran my own business for a little while, and then I went into one of the big holding groups for 8.5, 9 years. But in strategy roles, that's what I am. I've always been a strategist.
And was that in the UK or in the States or?
It was in the UK, but it was an international role. So a lot of travel in Europe, a lot of travel into the Middle East. Not a lot of US travel back then because we had a kind of US and international business. And then came out of there into Huge. And so I'd always been very kind of like growth and sales focused, even in strategy roles. And then it was more of a natural transition to then go into being more of a kind of portfolio leader and
sort of general management side.
Yeah.
So strategy is really interesting. I mean, a lot of our viewers and listeners are either working on a strategy at the moment or they've created a strategy for their business, however successful or unsuccessful that is, is being. What would you say from a strategist's point of view is the right approach to starting from scratch? If you're looking at your business and saying, well, I've got a vision, I know where I want to be. How would you approach the process of strategy?
Maybe it sounds a bit cliched, but I genuinely believe in this, which is a great idea is not enough. You have to solve a problem, and there has to be a client or a customer that you're going to solve a problem for. And obviously then that has to be something that a client or a customer is going to pay for. And that sounds so obvious, but I think gets missed a lot. It gets a lot
in the
of people,
romance of it all, you mean?
of course, yeah, because people start on the basis that they've got a passion, which is great. Never lose your passion, or they've got ideas, and often those ideas can be really great ideas, But fundamentally, the job, if you want to build a business, is being able to convince somebody to write a check. And if you can find a model that doesn't involve that, awesome.
Apparently AI is going to be doing it all for us, running businesses and taking over the world.
Exactly, yeah. And if you can find a model, then honestly, I will put some seed investment into that. And often it comes down to identifying, real challenges and problems that clients have, and then how are you going to fundamentally meet that? And you see it so many times where people, like I say, they've got great ideas, they've got passion, they've got experience, but they're not easy to buy from. I made that mistake when I first launched my business. We were starting a small agency, and we had a very unique, differentiated positioning at the time. It felt highly relevant. We were fully justified in it. And the light bulb moment was when a client said, "I love this, but I don't have an item in my budget for it." And it was a light bulb. You just said, okay, what she was basically saying was, I've got 5 or 6 line items that I can spend money on, but I don't have a line item for what you are.
You don't fit quite into
don't
my
quite
model.
fit.
Yeah.
So, and she was it was almost well, next year I'll put a line item in for you. And we were sitting there going, we're not going to be here next year unless, and very quickly we pivoted and said, we have to make sure that there is a sign up outside our business that says how to buy us, for sale. So yeah, that's always, if you can start with tangible problems, tangible needs, and build from there.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I mean, that's an amazing baseline. I suppose from a strategic perspective, then you would advise people, or certainly say to people you're working with, that stick to your first principles. Understand what business is all about, and find a fundamental way to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, fundamentally, and and it goes back to clients as well. I've got ex-colleagues, good friends who are leading businesses and transforming and turn around, and the good ones, that's their start point. They're very, very client focused. Get out, talk to clients, talk to customers, test things out. I think often people underestimate how much goodwill there is in the world. Clients will, I did it a couple of weeks ago. You can sit with a client over lunch and say, what does this sound like? And they'll say, yeah, that sounds bad. Don't do that. And that's gold. Yeah. That's gold, because that's just saved you 3 months, 2 months, 1 month. And in this world, we don't have 3 months, 2 months, 1 month. So yeah, get out and road test it, speak to people. And that's, people underestimate they've got, if you've been helpful for people, you've built equity, personal equity. A lot of people want you to succeed. Don't underestimate that.
Yeah, fantastic. You heard it here first. This is insight after insight from Simon Cox. So working in the UK and working in the States is quite different, and you and I have sort of touched on this in the past. If you were thinking about the differences in terms of leadership, particularly in terms of people development and leading a team, what would you say were the sort of key differences in working in New York versus London, if you want to use that as an example?
Yeah. So I'm only going to talk personally, and it'll be different for everybody.
Of course.
Is I get a massive amount of energy from US colleagues and being in the US. Cliched, but there's obviously scale in that market. There is a kind of, like, I don't want to kind of be cliched and put everybody into, everybody in America is positive. That's not what I'm saying. But
and conversely, everybody in the UK is
exactly,
negative.
exactly.
What do you think?
But if you find the right people, there is an energy there. There is there is a culture and a DNA of making things happen, and I find that very, it's energizing. I love being around that type of people. I think the flip side is equally, if you are in that market it must be quite hard sometimes when all of a sudden you've got a Brit who turns up, who, we are I think generally a little bit of a shyer nation,
Bit more reserved,
a bit more dour, a bit more moany at times, and I sometimes flip it. It's less about kind of like how do I see it, and more about how do they see me coming over.
That's interesting.
And
that's very self-aware, though. I mean, that's
no, I think it's just more of a sort of life works when you try and meet people in the middle, and I'm sure I can bring certain things from my background and my culture and the UK culture, but I'm very sort of open and want to learn from that culture as well.
Yeah, interesting. So not necessarily related to the differences between the two, but what would you say was your highest high in your career journey? What would you say has been the best thing?
I mean, I've got a few, I guess. I think certainly I set a business with a really close friend, someone I've been at university with, and we probably got to a point where you get the itch, if you like, to start your own business. You're doing it. You've been there. You're on that journey, and it was a good time for us, and it was a privilege to start a business with someone who is a close friend, someone who is also very an amazing practitioner as well. So, but if you look back, the naivety of what we were doing was incredible. It was sort of, at the time, my son was on his way, so that was my fourth was on his way. My wife was not. She was a full-time mom, so we had a single income household, and gave up a good job to start it. And it wasn't like we had a foundational client. It wasn't like we were walking straight in. And we got very, very lucky. Within 5 or 6 weeks, we picked up a really sizable piece of work with Bacardi.
So a big brand.
Yeah, it was a big brand, and also we were doing work that we felt was the type of work that we wanted to be doing. Because again, when you start your own business, of course, there's compromises, but people don't typically start their own business just to, some people do, but we weren't trying to make a ton of money. We wanted to create a business that we did great work in.
And enjoyed.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And because that goes with it. If you're doing great work, you have that enjoyment. And and we were super lucky. And over the course of that kind of experience, we worked with the likes of Bacardi, we worked with Amex, we launched Small Business Saturday into the UK. We did some of the first kind of brand work with ASOS, innovation work with Unilever. So we were really, and that was great in terms of the type of work we were doing. Again, it was you always small business, feast and famine. But that was a great foundational experience, and one we, it's awful when the two of us get together now because we just turn into this reminiscing kind of
talking about the highs and lows of business.
Yeah, you might as well put us on a park bench, and yeah, it's awful.
Yeah, but of course, it's been a big part of your journey, and it makes you what you or who you are now as a business leader, and the decisions you make. Loads of lessons along the way.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Like I said, it's the. Sometimes I think you don't. When stuff goes really well, it can disappear quite quickly because you're on to the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. It's probably the stuff that doesn't go well that forces you to reflect more. And that's where I think the learning kind of comes from. And there's always this cliche of, fail fast and take the learnings. But people, again, particularly in this environment we're in now, job insecurity, and you don't really want to put your hand up to failure.
No.
But yeah, that's where I think the learnings are. That's where you can really, because like I say, it forces you to you get those chemicals released in your body and you feel down, and it makes you think, okay, like what was going on? What do I need to do differently? That's great. That's learning.
Yeah, it's kind of helping you to self-develop.
Yeah, massively. Yeah,
and of course everybody's got that every day. Every day's a school day. It's one of the phrases. So okay, well that's been the highs. What about the lows?
Oh wow. Do you know what? I'm not. I've definitely. I'll talk about a few, but I'm not particularly in my career and in my work. I try not to be a up and down person.
Mm-hmm.
So there have been loads. I've been made redundant in my career. So we had a business that it got to the point where we didn't see a path to being able to grow it to the level we wanted to, and so we had to kind of put the shutters down on the business. And then you are into the world of, okay, I need to go and get a job.
What am I going to do next?
What am I going to do next? Yeah, exactly. And I feel people who, there is a stigma around things like redundancy, and there 100% shouldn't be, because most people will go through it, and you kind of, again, it's another great thing that you learn from, you adapt from. You typically, I think most people find themselves in a better place at the end of that. But the period where I always talk about the kind of the tunnel, if you like, where you can't quite see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so you don't know whether it's going to be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months, a year. And that, you have to be resilient through those periods. And touch wood, it's not happened for a while, but it could happen.
Yeah, you just don't know.
No, of course.
Business
is business. And it's kind of weird when you explain it. We are a business that we win work through pitching. That's how we do it. Effectively, clients will say, come in, do a beauty parade, and it's a shootout, and it kills you when you don't win those. Particularly when you know that, I've lost pitches that the chemistry has been amazing, the work has been amazing, tick, 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 you think the numbers are working, and even then clients can't quite articulate why. They just felt like it was a better fit somewhere else, and those are the lows. Yeah, it kills you. But then that's the world. That's the life.
And of course, that's because it's the world. You've got to pick yourself up and do it again.
Yeah,
and again and again until you win the big one.
Exactly. But the process, there's a big sugar high as part of that process.
Yeah.
So that takes some resilience. Like I say, people put their heart and soul into that. It can be long nights. It can be, I'm talking now less about my world, but more of the world that our creative, our product people, our technologists, what we call our crafts people, the people who actually do the work. That's you're asking them to, in a pitch scenario, you're asking them to do things quickly. Something that might take a month, you're saying you've got 2 days to produce, a concept or an idea and it must be super tough then for that idea to not be bought, and so that takes a resilience. You have to admire people who can do that.
And do you think, when that happens, and do you take away lessons from it, or do you think it's just sometimes one of those things, just a relationship element?
You definitely have to take lessons out of it, because, and particularly if you get, again, it's another thing, like, get that feedback. Always get that feedback, because I guarantee I've never done this, I should do it, but if you got everyone to put on a scrap of paper why you'd lost that pitch on the pitch team, I'm pretty confident you'd get a lot of different answers. And that is just the inner voice, if you like, of, the creative wasn't good enough, the costs were too high. The client will tell you a lot of the time, if they can articulate it. But I'm a big believer that the thing that we undervalue is chemistry, relationship. That's the thing. And I think we put far too much effort into, not too much effort, we don't put enough effort into that. Often if clients see 3 or 4 website concepts or app concepts or campaign concepts, they probably will be thinking, yeah, it's good. Or it's, there might be one that's bad, there might be 2 that's good, there might be a couple that are excellent. But I think the thing they'll really take out is, do we want to work with these guys? Do we like them? Did we see
You trust them.
different types of people, some diversity within the team, diversity of thinking. Do they, are they responsive when we ask questions? Could they respond to it? How did they show up? Did they bother to come into the office and pitch to us, or were they sitting on screens? All of those things, I think, that's the secret. Yeah.
Interesting. And you've and I think this is probably maybe it's even a bigger business in the States than it is in the UK. But you've had some coaching as well, some executive coaching through your journey. What do you think? What do you think are the real benefits for that for you personally? What difference has it made to you personally?
Well, I think, and it goes back maybe a little bit of what I was saying earlier, is what I found particularly useful, and it's like a Marmite thing, hated as well, is when they went out and spoke to other people about me.
The 360.
Yeah. And it is, maybe it goes back to being British and uptight again. Like, I find that like it's an uncomfortable concept, because you can kind of feel, it's just going to be negativity coming back, and it's just going to be, and of course what happens is people generally are very kind in that kind of feedback. There is a kindness in telling you how it is as well. I've definitely got some, friends, mentors, working relationships where they'll tell it to me pretty bluntly, and you need to hear that at times. But I think more than anything, there's two things really. I think more than anything, when you get given that feedback, often it's just a moment to say, just slow down and think about it, because we're all busy. We're all, running and running and running. And then the other obvious thing is, and this is not just in the work, it's in home life, it's in probably all parts of our world, is that a period to reflect, one-to-one, is really important. It is really important, because you can go through a week and a month, and then if you look back, you go, Christ, I've not really had time to just
focus
stop
on
and think. Yeah.
And being better in what you do.
100%.
At the end of the day, you just want to achieve more.
Exactly. And that is, and it should bleed into not just work, it sort of should bleed into all aspects of your life. Really.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
thank you. So a question I always ask in my podcast as we get towards the end, thank you for wonderful insights, is what message would you give viewers and listeners? Now, it can be about business, it can be about running a business, it can be about being an MD, it can be about your career journey, or just anything you want. But what message would you give?
I think two things really. I mentioned it a little bit. Is it depends on where people are in the sort of their kind of career stage or business stage, and I'm going to give one which is more functional, which is it goes back to that pipeline comment I made before, and the sort of the older and the longer in the tooth I get, the more I come back to, your pipeline is just the absolute lifeblood of your business, and always, be focused on that, because, and I've seen it myself, there are times when, if you are in a growing business, everything is better. Everything is better. It's like, the analogy I give is, you blow a balloon up, and then it's very, it can pop at any point, and you just take a little bit of pressure out of it, and that's what it feels like. 10% less pressure that you can invest in people, you can put some money behind the bar on a Friday night, you can travel a little bit more, like all of those things. Of course, good cost control, really important, but it just becomes less of that kind of pressure, and growth and pipeline, that is our fundamental scorecard, if you like, as whether we're doing well or not. I think the other side of it is we're a people business. We are. It's a classic service business. Although we deliver things into the outside world, our commodity is people, and be interested in people. Just spend time with people, get to know people, and don't go. Particularly, I think as you get into more of a leadership role, like find some people who are, on the mezzanine, if you like, and just help them out a bit,
Mm.
you know. And a lot of that is good listening, showing that you care, but also, you know, a little bit of giving them permission to be good, you know. And that's what I've found is a lot of time with people is, you know, if you've come through the door, you've passed the test to get through the door, and once you're through the door, you know, just being able to give people permission to say, get on and do stuff. And, you know, this, I'm rambling now, but there's this notion of, I always talk about this notion of, we should provide a safety net, but not a harness.
Mhm.
You know, a harness
That's a great analogy, actually.
is like, you know, I'll pull you up the wall in that harness and you are constrained and I don't believe that you can do it yourself. So I've got a safety net is a very different concept. You know, it's the idea that you're out there, commit to it. And if you fall, you're going to be okay. But you need to commit to it. And that's definitely how I see the world. You know, I'm not a micromanager. I'm sure maybe at times I should be more of a micromanager. I'm not a micromanager. I'm definitely somebody who, you know, I'm kind of like, go for it, get on with it. You can do it.
And supportive when things.
Yeah, 100%. I've got your back.
Invariably.
And if something goes wrong, I've got your back. As long as people haven't done something that is, you know, they've just lost their mind or their common sense. Stuff happens. You know, I've got people's back. But the flip side of that is you've got to take some, you know, you've got to have some courage and grab hold of stuff. That's probably the only thing where I get frustrated with people, is if I feel like you're trying to be spoon-fed. Like, people shouldn't, in our, you know, in my world, in the kind of business that we're in, shouldn't need spoon-feeding.
Thank you. That's, I mean, absolutely brilliant. So if huge businesses are watching our podcast and they want to reach out to you and to Huge, how would they do that? Would they go to the website or LinkedIn? Or...
Yeah, either the website or LinkedIn. I'm always, I joke sometimes that, and of course I know what I'm saying, that I'm the world's worst salesman, because I'm not a transactional person at all. So I love talking to people. I love having conversations. If I'm always here to help people. It doesn't have to end in a sale. Just be helpful, be useful. And so, yeah, reach out to me on LinkedIn, through our website. Yeah.
Brilliant. Simon Cox of Huge, that's been absolutely fantastic.
Thanks,
wonderful
Martin.
taking us through your journey. Thank you very much. If you like what you've heard here today, then there are plenty of amazing podcasts meeting amazing leaders on their journey to success on YouTube, Spotify, and various other incredible channels. But for now, from here and from Huge, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.